Uh, in this day three session, we will discuss about the integrations. Like we will create schedule integrations. We will create add the parameters in the schedule integrations. Even we will add the URI parameters of app-driven integrations. And yes, we will discuss about that. Before going to discuss, let's recap the previous session one. So in previous session, we have discussed about the web services, OIC editions, adapters available in OIC, and yes, whenever we are going to create connections, we have the connection role. So we discuss about that connection roles, why we are using the different roles, and we created connections. After that, we created our first integration, that is app driven and the schedule integration. Yesterday we remained to cover two topics, that the first difference between app driven and the schedule integration. So yes, before going to start today's session, we will discuss the 2 points today. And we forget to add the overview of the integration page. So we will discuss this two in today's session only, and after that we will move to the integrations, where we will discuss about the different status of the integrations and how we can identify the different status, all these things. After that we will move to the adding parameters to the integration. So whenever we are saying that we are going to add parameter to the integration, so whenever we are adding parameters in schedule integration, it's called as schedule parameters. And in term of app driven integrations parameter, it's called as review or URI parameters. After that we will move to the metadata of that integration. So whenever we are executing any integration, it's generating a unique sequence values. So that kind of things we will get to know about that. And yes, in last of the session, we will discuss about the question and answer. So let's begin to the integration part. So here you can see yesterday we created this two integration, that XX schedule integration 01 and the XX AP in the AP for app driven, SC for schedule integration 01. So these two integration we created yesterday. So first we will discuss about the canvas page and all the element of the integration, whatever we have. Then we will move for each and every part. So here you can see this is the integration canvas. Whenever we are creating any integration, we are getting by default some endpoint. In case of schedule endpoint, schedule integration, and in case of app driven, we don't have any endpoint. And you can see yesterday we also discussed that how we can change the layout of the integration. So right now you can see this is in horizontal way, like all the elements whatever we will add, that will becomes in the left to right sequence. But yes, we can change this to vertical from here, like in the layout section only. After that, if you will see, we have the reposition and the select option. So select option is whenever we are working on the integration, by default our cursor is in select statement, select position only. So right now you can see our cursor is select statement. We can click on the endpoint and drag it anywhere. So this is the select one. And yes, whenever we are saying that reposition, it means that the endpoint we added, we can change the position of this endpoint to anywhere. There are few endpoints that are not repositionable. So we will discuss that one also in our next session. And yes, whenever we will click on the reposition, it gives us option to, we can reposition this one, reposition the element. And once we done with the reposition, we have to again move to the select part, so that our mouse cursor will be in the select status, and then we can, whatever element we need to drag, we can drag there. And in last we have global fault option. So what is global fault? Everything we will learn day by day. So just for basic information purpose, whenever we are working on exception handling, global fault is going to be used for that purpose only. And yes, after that we have two options. You can see the canvas design. So once by default we have canvas design is a canvas view, and after that we have different view, the tree view. So here you can see whatever element we added, it will be listed as a tree. And here all these things you can, based on the basic details and all, we can find it from here also. So yes, majorly while working on the development, we are using the canvas view only. So we will use the same. And in the right side you will see, last time we know that whenever we are creating integration, it is mandatory to have a minimum one tracking variable for each and every integration. So yes, for adding the tracking variable, we can move here in the task icon, and yes, we can, by clicking on the tracking, we can add the tracking variable. We can export the integration, and there are many information, even we can delete. And yes, you can see the primary information. So with the help of this primary information only, we can change the integration name, Here you can see, suppose I given the name as 01, we can change to 001. We cannot change the identifier. And yes, from here only we cannot change the version. For changing the version, we need to make a clone of that. Everything we will learn one by one. And yes, if you want to update the description of the integration, we can update here. If suppose while creating the integration, we forget to provide the package details, like in which package we are going to combine this integration. So yes, we can provide package name here. And even if we have already added the package name, we can remove package name from here, or we can provide the different package name. And after done, once done, we can save and we can close here. And moving to the element part of the integration. So what kind of element are there in integration? What's the use? So you can see in the top right side, we have the first as a invoke and trigger. And here you can see all the connections created in the instance. Not only created, all the connection which is in configure status will visible here. Suppose we created connection and that connection not in validated and not in the configure status will not visible here. So all the connection will visible here only once that is ready to use in integration, and that is ready to use in integration, it means that is configured. So here you can see, once this is the name of the adapters. So here you can see we have FTP. It means that we have one connection with the help of FTP adapters. Once you will click here, you can see the connection name. Here you can see we have REST connection and we have two REST connection created here. So you can see this one, this two REST connection we created. And yes, once you will click here, you can see the action icon, and inside the action icon we have all the elements whatever we want to add in the integration. So that elements are related to different transactions. You can see we have assign. In the data section we have assign. Assign is going to use to create the variable. Even it is going to use to assign the values to that variable. Here we have b2b. b2b we are not going to cover here. We have data stitch. So what's the difference between data stitch and assign? We will get to know about that. So the data stitch is also using the same to providing the values to the variable. Once we created the variable, we have to assign value to the variable. We will use data stitch. But yes, we are using data stitch in case of global variable only. So we will learn about that. Here you can see this is the mapper. So once you, if you remember, yesterday we created app-driven integration, and in the app-driven integration we have the mapper, right? So sometimes we delete the mapper, or we want to add extra mappers. With the help of this mapper only we can add the mappers. So the Oracle provided the facilities. If mapper removes, we can add the mapper again in the canvas by dragging this mapper from here to inside that one, inside the canvas. Yes, then after we have a stage file. With the help of a stage file only, we will create file in Oracle integration, and based on the requirement we can process the file. So while processing the file, we can place the file over server, we can place the file over email. All the operations whatever we want we can perform with the help of a stage file. Then after we have call option. Inside the call we have three endpoints. The first is integration. So yes, Oracle provided the facilities that we can call different integration inside an integration. So suppose here we created app schedule integration, and in this integration we have requirement to call another integration. With the help of this integration we can call another integration. Then after we have JavaScript. So as I told you that whenever we are going to create libraries, it means that we are going to create JavaScript functions. So with the help of this one we can call, and even we have different way to access the JavaScript function. We will learn that one also. This is process. If you remember, whenever we discuss about the introduction, we have three things: VVCS, PCS and ICS. So yes, process cloud services, we create process and we can call this process in integration only. After that, in collection we have different elements. The first one is for each. With the help of for each only we can add the loop on repeating element. Then after we have a scope. So we'll discuss about the scope. A scope is something like we are adding the exception handling block, just like try and catch we are adding in Java or any different programming languages. Then after we have switch. Switch is going to help us to provide the facility where we can add the logic. If else conditions logic we can add with the help of switch. And yes, we have while loop option. After that, in general, we have logger, we have note, we have notification. This, with the help of this notification only we will be able to send email over email email from the Oracle integration only. Here we have wait option. We can use wait, and whatever time we will provide in this wait, that integration will be stopped or in the waiting stage for that specific second or time whatever we will provide in the wait. Yes, why we are using it? Yes, sometimes we need to process the file, and after processing the file we need to wait for next 5 seconds or 10 seconds so that we can process next file. So that kind of requirement we have, we can use the wait endpoint. And yes, in the last you can see we have the and this and are going to use to define the activities of the integration. We have callback, we have fault return, we have rethrow, returns, stop, and then throw new fault. So all these things are going to be handled for integration only. So suppose you can see this is our app-driven schedule integration, and yes, in schedule integration you can see the last endpoint is stop. It means that we are saying that after printing the log message, no need to go anywhere, just stop the integration or complete the integration. So that's why we have a stop, same as we have return. So yes, whenever we are creating integration in a such a way that we have to return some values as a response payload. So we have return endpoint. Sometimes we can add manually, or yes, whenever we are creating app-driven integration, we are getting the return option by default based on the configuration of the trigger endpoint we added. And then we have the rethrough fault and the return. So all these things are used while handling the exception with the help of throw new fault. So sometimes we require to generate an exception based on a specific condition. So yes, at the time we will use throw new fault so that we can manually generate the exception or we can manually generate the error. So that kind of things we are going to cover. And yes, here you can see the X icon. This is the place where we can create global variable. So what is the differences between the local variable created by assign and the global variable? So when we will move to the global variable part, we will discuss that also. So here we are creating the variable, and this global variable values we are updating with the help of stage, data stage. So everything we will discuss there. So yeah, we are done with the canvas design overview, and let's move to the next part where we will create integration, and in the integration we will add the parameters. So here you can see last time we created schedule integration and just we added the log message. So now this time we will create schedule integration, but we will pass some values as a parameters. So yes, we have to cover today. So before going to start, let's discuss about the status of the integration. So here you can see right now our integration is in configure status. So whenever we are saying that integration is in configure status, it means that that integration is ready to activate. So here you can see our integration is in active configure status. Are you able to see here the yellow one? It means that this integration access schedule integration 01 is in configure status and it's ready to activate. So once you will move here by clicking here, you can activate. And once you will activate the integration, it will take a little bit of time to activate. Once activated, we can run the integration or we can execute the integration. So you can see the now status changed to activate. You can see the first integration XX schedule integration 01 is changed to activate, and once integration is in activate status, we can run the integration. The first part. Second, you can observe that XXAP invoices in lock status. So whenever we are working on any integration and we move to open the integration again, we try to open the integration as that integration is open by any other user or open by anywhere. That's why it's showing the lock status. So here you can see the integration is XXAP integration 01, and you can see we have already opened this integration here, right? So once we open the integration here, they will not allow any other to open the integration again. That's why it's showing lock status, so that whoever is going to work on this integration, they can know about that. Okay, someone is going to work on this integration, or someone is working on the integration, so that time it will not, they will not open. Yes, obvious, we can open this integration by unlocking that. So how we can unlock that integration? So bus, you can see, you can click here in the task icon, and once you will go, you can see the option unlock. So once you will click here, your integration status will be changed to unlock to configure or whatever status will be there, or configure or draft status. So here you can see once we'll click on unlock, you can see now integration is in configured status. So here, and the another status is that you can see this integration having the status as draft. So when our integration will have the draft status, so suppose we open this integration. Let me delete that one first. So here this is our integration, and once we are going to edit the integration here, and let me add any endpoint here, for example node here. Yeah, when we didn't save the integration, all the integration without save will be in the draft status only. So here you can see we added the integration but we didn't save. We will go back, and once we will check the integration status, right now it will be in lock status. So here what we will do, we will close this integration. So here you can see once we will discuss, all the changes will be done, all the changes will be removed. So suppose somewhere we have, let me create one error here. If our integration having any error and we are not able to save because of that error, that integration will be in the draft status only. So once we will save that integration, that draft status will be changed to activated or changed to configure so that we can run the integration. So here we done the validation, and right now we have error in this endpoint, right? We validated again. Now you can see we save the integration, but this integration having one error. So we'll move to the close, and you can see this integration is the status is draft. Draft status said that that integration is not completed and that integration having an error. So once we will resolve that error, that draft will be changed to configure. So here you can see for changing that one, we will again edit the integration, and we will find out the reason of the error. So the simple way we can find out from the endpoint only. Another way is that you can click here in the error icon, and that error icon will say basic details related to the error. So here you can see we have error in the logger message, and what error we have, you can see invalid map expression. So what we will do, we will again move to the logger, we'll check, and we will try to check what's the error. So as I know that error, we forget to add the single quotes here, that's the error. So yes, we remove the error, and after the error, once you will save, you can see integration is saved successfully and ready for activation. Just go back by clicking on the close button, and you can see our integration is in configure status. So again now we can activate this integration and execute the integration. Another way is that suppose this is an integration, I want to delete this integration from this instance. I don't want to be state this integration here. I want to delete that. So what you need to do is that for deleting the integration, you can click here and you can delete the integration. But there is differences. You can only delete that integration which is not in activate status. So suppose this integration is in activate status, we cannot delete. So once you will go here, you cannot find option to delete the integration. We have the various operation, but yes, we cannot delete the operation here, delete the instance. But yeah, this integration, the first integration is in configure status. So once you will click here, you will get option to delete. For deleting the integration, just you need to click here to delete, and yes, you need to click on this delete. That integration will be deleted from this instance. So now move to create one integration, and in the integration we will pass some values as a parameters and will display the value in the integration only. So how we can create? So let me first create the integration. So here we are going to add parameters in schedule integration, that is called as schedule parameters. So yes, sometimes we require to add the parameters in the schedule integration as well. So before going to start, first we will discuss about the differences between app driven and schedule. So yes, whenever we are saying that we have to create app driven integration, it means that we are creating integration in a such way that integration can be exposed as a API. Can be exposed as a API. It means if we create integration with the help of REST endpoint as a trigger, REST connection as a trigger, that app driven integration will be exposed as REST API. If we add SOAP as a trigger, that app driven integration will be exposed as a SOAP API. So all these things we will learn when we will discuss about that, or we'll check that how to run the app driven integration from API, from the Postman or any third party system. And yes, Whenever we require to create integration in a such a way that whenever we require on a specific time, we can schedule the integration at a time. Yes, we will use schedule orchestration while creating the integration. Another reason for creating the app-driven integration is that suppose we created VVCS page. There are various scenarios where you need to create the VVCS page. So yes, there is different team who is going to create VVCS pages, and we want to perform the transaction from VVCS page only. Suppose in the VVCS page, what we are going to do is that we have one search icon, and in the search box, we are providing the invoice details. Suppose any invoice details and all. So we are providing invoice ID and want to whenever user will click on the search button, whatever invoice ID they provided, all the invoice details will reflect on the VVCS page. So VVCS page doesn't have option or doesn't have access to directly connect with the API and directly connect with the Fusion system. So what it will do, it will call our app-driven integration and it will pass the invoice number as a request payload to our app-driven integration. And we will create that integration in a such a way that whatever invoice ID we will get, based on invoice ID in our integration only, we will do the operation. And based on that invoice ID, we will return back data as a response payload to VVCS page, so that whatever data we are going to return back in a response, the same data it will show in the tabular form in VVCS port. So for solving that kind of requirement also, we require app driven integration so that that integration can be triggered from VVCS page only. But in case of schedule orchestration, we cannot achieve that scenarios. So that's why whenever we require that kind of things, we can go for the schedule orchestration. And yes, there are some scenarios where we require to create integration. That integration can take much time. For example, we are going to create integration and that integration having the large process and getting much time, even more than 10 minutes, 20 minutes. That kind of scenarios we cannot handle in app-driven integration, as most of the time we are creating app-driven integration in synchronous way. Synchronous way means we are passing some data to the integration and that integration is going to return back as some data. But in schedule integration, we cannot perform that things. In schedule integration, we cannot get data as a response. Whenever we want that create integration in a such a way that integration will return some data, we will always use app driven. And yes, whenever we require, we need to create integration. That integration we will call, but we don't require any information from that integration. So yes, in that case, we will prefer schedule integration. There are more differences. Like even in app driven integration, we have a limitation that if in app driven integration we configure the request and response payload, it is mandatory to complete that integration in 5 minutes only. But in case of app schedule integration, we don't have such limitation. We have a limitation of 6 hours. If we create schedule integration, that schedule integration max to max will go to the 6 hour, and if take more than 6 hour, it will be completed in error. Yes, whenever we require to create integration which is going to perform large operation, we will use schedule integration at that case. So let's move. We will create schedule integration and where we will add the parameters. So here we'll select, we will give the name xxc parameters integration 01. Here we can provide the package name or we can skip the package. So let's provide the package as sc. So here we created OIC.sc. So previously we don't have package with this name. So what it will do, it will create the package with OIC.sc and it will merge this integration inside that. Right? SC for schedule, OIC is the name of that. So we will follow that convention. So just click on create. So once we will create the schedule integration, by default we are getting one scheduler endpoint. With the help of this scheduler endpoint only, this integration is going to start. The same in app driven integration, we don't have any endpoint to start. That's why we are adding the trigger connection. Here one thing you will observe, yes, yesterday session we have already discussed the same, but yes, whenever we are adding the trigger endpoint in integration, we don't have option to see the trigger connection. So here you can see here all the connections we have in the invoke type only, invoke role type only. But yes, if we don't have this endpoint, we will have endpoint as a trigger also. So yes, we added the schedule here and we want to create integration so that at the time of run, we will pass some values and that value will be displayed in the log message. So for adding the parameters in the schedule integration, you can click on this edit icon and here you can see we have the schedule parameters option. We can add the parameters here. There is some limitation. We cannot have more than 5 parameters in the schedule parameters list. If we have requirement that we can pass max to max 5 values to the integration, yes, we can add the parameters in schedule integration. Else we have different way to solve the solution, the solve the requirement. So yes, we will learn later on. So for adding the parameters, just you need to click on this plus icon so that it will add one row. And here we have to provide the parameters name. So always follow the convention. Whenever we are going to ask the parameters, start with p underscore and give the name, whatever name you want to give. So yes, whenever we are working on the development, we follow the convention. We are giving the name in such a way that with the help of name only, we can identify what kind of values that variable is going to hold. So suppose we are going to pass two values to this schedule integration, right? So what I will do, I will give the name as num1, and here you can provide the default values. So providing default values is mandatory. If you will not provide the default value, it will throw an error. So yes, I will go and I will provide default values as 0. And yes, while we click on plus icon to add different value, I will go and I will add another parameter as num2. And yes, here we will add another values, and yes, default value as 0. So here we added two parameters to the satellite points where it's reflecting everything we will done. So just click on close so that the adding the parameters can be changed. Here we are getting one error. We are getting an error because we added the parameters but we didn't have any endpoint here. We are not working on any changes. So yes, for displaying the things, what we will do, we will add the log message. So we will add the logger here, give the name, some some we are going to take two numbers and we are going to display the addition of these two numbers. That's why I given the sum and logger is the endpoint name. So just click here. Here you can see we have two options, always and when trace is enabled. So what is trace is enable, and we will discuss when we will about to schedule this integration. So here, if we will select always, whatever value we will put inside the log message, we will be able to see in the logger or in the when we are going to execute the integration, and in the instance analysis, we can check. And if we will select the when trace is enabled, we can see the value only when we will able to enable the trace for a specific integration only. So yes, I will select always so that the logger we added, we can see all the time, even we added the log trace enable and or not. So here you can see this is the expression where we have to write the message, what kind of message we want to see. So but here you can see the schedule parameters we added, that the p num1 and the p num2 we are able to see in the left side only. So all the elements, all the values, whatever we added, we can easily see in the left side. And right side, here we have expression builder in different mappers. In the right side is the target node. So right now we don't have target node, we will see there in the mapper only. So yes, what we can do, we can drag this value here to use, or whatever operation we want to perform, we can perform. So suppose I want to show the addition of these two. So what I will do, I will just drag here the p num1 and want to add plus operation. So I will select plus, and this is the num2. So here if you will validate, what it will do, whatever data we have in these two parameters, it will add the data and it will display in the log message. So just done, I will close. We successfully added this logger. We will just validate here and close. So you can see once we added the endpoint here, we got resolve error resolved. Now we have only one error, and you know the reason of that error, as it's mandatory to provide the tracking variable for each and every integration. So here we will add the tracking variable. So we cannot directly create the variable here. Every time we need to, while creating the variable, we have to drag from left side. So what we will do in the tracking variable, I want to just drag these two variable num1 and the num2. So whatever data we will have in the num1 and num2, the same data we can check while tracing. So just here I will save. I don't want to change the name. So you can see error is resolved now. We will save to validate the integration. Close. And yes, you can see the integration is in configure status. So we can activate this integration. So just click here. And here you can see this is the enable tracing and include payloads. So that option, if you remember, while adding the logger, we have option always and when trace enable. So this is the option. If we will untick here, it means that we are not going to enable the tracing. So at the time, if we select that node, that logger as a when tracing enable, it will not show the value. Yes, here as we selected always, if you will select here or not, the log message value will be reflected in the trace while checking the log of that specific integration. That's why we selected always there. And yes, we are selecting the enable tracing because the execution of the integration we can get to know that where we control executed, what kind of value that control having at the stage. And here we have include payload option. So whenever we are saying that include payload option, so payload is something that we are getting data from somewhere else. For example, while calling the integration we are passing some values, so that values is considered as a payload. So suppose we call any endpoint, we call db endpoint, that db endpoint is going to return some values. So that values is considered as a payload. So if we will not take that payload here, we will not be able to see the message of the value of that response payload of db in the logger only. So that's why we need to enable that both. And whenever we are enabling the tracing, so whenever we are enabling the tracing, it makes that integration bit slow. Why? Because it's showing all the values and loading all the log messages and all. Yes, it's always suggested that whenever we are moving this integration to the prod instance, we can disable the tracking variable tracking. So how we can see that? So you can see we added the variable tracing, and now if we want to disable and all, you we can click here, and here you can see tracing options. Once you will click here, you can find the same option whatever we added. So here we can remove this include payload, we can remove the enable tracing, all these things we can do from here on. So now we are done with the integration. We are going to activate this integration and run. So integration is activated, we will run it here. Just click on submit. So whenever we are going to submit schedule integration, so we are right now we are forcefully submitting the integration, right? Schedule integration means we have to schedule that integration on a specific time, but we are not going to schedule here. We are forcefully running the integration, right? So that the process is called as ad hoc run, right? So once you will confirm, you can see the same option. So here we are going to run this integration as a ad hoc basis. And yes, whatever previously, if you remember, we have not any parameter. That's why we directly able to run. But yes, this time we added the parameters to the integration. That's why before going to submit the integration, it's asking to provide this to value, right? So here you can see we have current values option. So current values is something that right now we will pass the value. Suppose we pass 10 and 20 here. So current value, it means that once we will submit, next time when we will able to run the integration again, we will be able to see these two value here. So that's the current value, and here we added default value as 0. If we will not pass any value, that 0 will be passed. So that kind of things we have for the schedule parameters. So here, once we will click on submit, that integration will be executed and it will generate one instance ID. Remember, every time whenever we are going to run any integration, it is generating the instance ID. Once you will click on this instance ID, you can be able to see the logger of that. So you can see all the log message. This is the one way to check the log message, by clicking in this hyperlink, or else another way is that you can go back to the integration homepage, and once you will move to the homepage, you can see we have monitoring. Once you will go to the monitoring, inside that monitoring we have integration, so that we can monitor our integration only. So once you will click here, we have different options. Here we have the tracking, we have error. If our integration completed in error, we can check all the integration here. We have the tracing for checking the tracing message or log message of the integration. We have agent, if we added the agent here, we have integration. So all the integration we added in the instance, we will be able to see from here only. And this is the dashboard which show all the details related to the integration, whatever we executed, error, completed successfully, all these things we can see from here only. So here you can see this is the integration we executed, and the instance id is 200001 instance id, right? Each and every time whenever we are executing the integration, we are getting one id or sequence id, that is called instance id. And here you can see, friend, remember at the time of adding the tracing variable or adding the business identifier, I told you that we can add up to 3 variable, and minimum 1 variable is required over there. So remember what we have added. We added pnum1 over there and pnum2 over there. So the first value is called as primary identifier, and the rest of two is called as the business identifier. Primary identifier is also a business identifier, but yes, it's mandatory to have minimum one. That's why the first one is primary and rest of the one is business identifiers. If we added one more thing, that will be visible here. So why we are using that one? We are using this identifier to identify the integration log, to check the log instance, to identify the integration we run with the help of any specific value. Here you can see we provided pnum value as 10. If we will search here, let me remove the here. Let me first show you that instance ID. So how you can check. So first, by clicking on that icon, we can it will directly move to the track instance, and you can see this is our instance ID, all this value, and here by clicking on this eye icon we can check the log message. The same way we can find from moving to the dashboard of here in the monitoring dashboard. Inside the integration, here you can see we have tracing. So once you will click on this tracing, you can see the integration executed. So as of last 1 hour we have only one integration executed. That's why we have only one here. You can see this is the same point where we came by clicking on this hyperlink icon, track instance. If I will remove the filter from here, last 1 hour to last 3 days, you can see we will have many integration. As if you remember, these two integration we executed yesterday. You can see the time yesterday 10:15, 10:09. So from here only you can find the integration instance, check the log messages and all. Another way is that you can click on this integration. So once you will click on the integration, all the integrations created in the system you will be able to see here. So here you can see we have various integration. Even we created the integration as access schedule parameters 01, and how many times we executed the integration and what is the status, success, error, all these things we can find here. So you can see received, it means executed one times, processed once, scheduled once, succeed one. If we have error, it will move the count here. About it means we manually cancel the integration. All these things we can find from here. And yes, once you will click here in the receive, you can see the again log message here of the specific integration only. Right now you can see we have the filter here in the track instance is the name, integration name. This is the name of integration. But here in by default here we have the filter as instance ID. So yes, we add the filter while checking the instance of the integration. Add the filter based on the status, add the filter based on the integration name, add the filters on the ID and all. So that kind of things we can add. If we remove the filter and here as a parameter we pass 10, and if we search here 10, we will be able to see that one. So that's why we are using business identifier or tracking variable, so that we can track the integration. So here if you will see the log message, this is our integration. We pass the value as 10 and 20. And if you will see the log message, what we added, we first added the logger. In the logger we added the addition of the two numbers. So you can see in the logger we show the display message as 30. Even we can add some values in the logger message. Before going to display the values 30, we can add different values, like the addition of two number is 30, something like that. So yes, we have concat function over there. I will show you that how we can use that concat function and all. Remember, whenever we are adding the creating schedule integration, that scheduler have by default one variable, one payload, that is time. So here you can see trigger a schedule run. So once you will click on message, you can see a start time. This is the start time is the variable. Every time whenever that integration will be executed, the here it will have the default current time, current date and time. So you can see this is the date and this is the time. So this is the basic way we can create schedule integration with parameters. So now it's time to create app driven integration with parameters. So we'll again move to the integration part here. And yes, for creating the app driven integration, again I will click on this create. Here I will select app driven orchestration and we'll click on select. So once we will move, we have to provide the name. So I will give the name XXAP parameters 01. And again I will provide the package name as OIC.ap for app driven, SC for schedule. So here just click on create. So here you can see whenever we added the app driven integration, we don't have any endpoint headed here, right? We have to add endpoint manually. Endpoint, it means we have to add the trigger endpoint manually. So here you can see right now, as we have to add trigger connection here, That's why you can see here we have connection option as a trigger. So when you will click all the connection, whatever we are here is triggered roles type only, trigger or invokes and trigger. So here I will select the rest, and here you can see trigger invoke we created last time. I will drag this one here. Right. So once we will drag here, we have to provide the name. So I will give the name as start and rest we can use, or even you can use trigger rest, so that with the help of name only we can identify, okay, this integration, this endpoint is going to help to trigger the integration, and this is the rest type. So we'll move next, and here you can see what this endpoint or this is going to do. So we can provide the basic description. It's not mandatory, that's why we every mostly we escaping that one. Here you can see what is the endpoint of this URL. So we discussed that what is the endpoint and all. So yes, here I will provide the endpoint as slash addition, and here as we have to configure the header, right, configure the parameters. So URI parameters and the review parameters are same. So how you can identify, by clicking on this tick icon. So once you will tick here, you can see add a and review parameter for this endpoint. For this endpoint, for this integration, we want to add the review parameter. So once you will click here and you will click next, you can see the new option is enabled, new tab is enabled for request parameters. You can see the request, in the request parameters, we have to add the parameters. So that parameters is called as query parameters, URI parameters, review parameters, all are same. So for adding the parameters, you need to click here. Once you will click here, you need to provide the name and you need to select the data type of the parameters. So here I will give the name as again p underscore num1, and here I will select data type as number. So number, for that we have integer, so I will select integer here, and here we will click again to add another parameters p num2, and again I will select the integer. So here we successfully added these two review parameters. Once we will go next, as we have not any configuration, it will directly move to the summary part so that it can show all the details. So here you can see we have the endpoint, we have all the details, we added the URI as addition, we added method as get, and the query parameters having two parameters, that p num1 and p num2. We are done. So we successfully added the trigger endpoint. I will change the layout to horizontal. Now here you can see this is the mapper. This, if we want to add the mapper to this, here it will return back some value, but yet we don't want to return anything. So here we added that, and we want to add the logger. We want to add the log message. So again I will move to the action. Here we will select the logger. We drag logger here, and yes, here will select, give the name. So we will give the name as sum underscore logger create. And here I will not select always, this time I will select when trace is enable, right? So here we have to provide the log message. So I will edit here and we to provide the log message. So as I told you that what we can do, here you can see in the execute, this is the request parameter. Inside the execute you can see query parameters, and here we have two query parameters as we added these two parameters only, right? So for adding that two, again we can drag and drop here. So once we will drag here, you can see num1 plus, if we drag here this 2 num2, once we will validate, you can see it will be reflecting as num1 plus num2, and again in log message it will simply show the addition. But if you want to add some additional values, right, so some additional values we have to concatenate, right? So how we can concatenate? So suppose we want to concatenate something like that, uh, addition is addition is something like, we want to show some 30, something like that. So here you can see this is our fixed value, and this is the value coming from the addition of the two numbers. So how we can do? So first we need to use concatenate function. So here in Oracle integration, it's provided the various function. We will move to the function part, we will learn that also. Here you can see once we will check concat, we have concat functions to merge the different string, different values. So what we will do, we will first drag this concat function here, and here you can see in the concat function it's showing that a string 1 and a string, so it means that the value of one value and the second value. So here in the string 1, what we need to, we have the string 1 as a addition is, right, and the second value string 2 will be the addition of these two. So instead of that one, what we will do, we will select this value, we will delete, and our cursor is here right now. So what we will do, we will drag this p num1. So you can see addition is p num1, and we need to add the plus operation. So I will use plus, and here we have to select the another variable. So here you can see it's showing that addition is num1 plus num2. So these all are the endpoint details from where this num1 and num2 is coming. So you can see this is the execute. Inside the execute we have query parameters, we have num2. So you can the same execute query parameters and num1 and num2. So once you will validate, you can see the same here in the below concrete addition is p num1 and p num2. Just I will close, and again I will go for validate and close. So here you can see we have our endpoint is not in the perfect place, somewhere we added somewhere. So for arranging that one in the way, we will click on the reset so that it can arrange in the similar way. Now we are done with that, but we have one error in the integration. So we know that each and every time we need to add the tracking variable. So I will add the tracking variable, and this time we will add only num1 as a tracking variable, right? So we'll save, and yes, everything is saved. I will click on save and close. So here you can see our integration is in configure status. We can run the integration. So here once we will activate the integration. So here you can see we have option to enable the tracing. So I don't want to enable tracing this time. Activate, and will take a little bit of time to activate. So now integration is activated. Let me run the integration. So for running, just click on this run icon, click on test, and you can see here we have test icon. But you can see the last time when we run the app development, we don't have any URI parameters. But yes, this time we have URI parameters. And these two values, if you want, why you are saying that we are saying URI parameter, the value of these two variable will be added in the URL. So here you can see this is our URL, and you can see here we have num1 p num2 equals to num2 equals to num1 equals to. So whatever value we will pass here, that same value will be merged in URL. That's why we are saying that review parameters, URL parameters, URI parameters. So here suppose we have to provide 100, and we are going to provide 200. So you can see the both values added in the URL only. Once you will click on the test, same value will be passed to the integration, and that integration will show the log message. So here you can see we have the integration instance as 02, and this is the log message. So here you can only see all these details. The same log message we can move to the tracing part and see here. So if you will refresh, we will not be able to see here 02. Why? We have the validation here. So we will remove this validation, and once we will remove the validation, you will be able to see the AP URI parameters integration, and with the instance ID 02. So here if you will see the schedule, here you can see we have the logger, but we are not able to see the log message of this logger. Why we are not able to see the log message of the logger? Because we not enable the tracing. So here you can see in the integration, if we will move to the tracing, we have not enabled the tracing. That's why we are not able to see the log message here inside the what is the value inside the sum logger. We are not able to see because of the tracing. We are not going to enable. What is the message behind that trigger rest? We are not able to see. So once we will enable the tracing, includes the payload, saved. So now integration is activated with the tracing enable. So once we will run the integration, here again we will pass, suppose this time we pass 1000 and save. Click on test. So you can see it's passed the value, and yes, it's taking little bit of time to load the message. So yes, I will move here again, I will refresh. You can see the new instance here we are able to see. We'll check, and here you can see we are able to see sum logger, and here what is the value inside the sum logger? Inside the value we have log message is addition is 1200. So we pass two values. We pass what two values we pass? If you will click on this message, this is the logger, this is the enable log message, and this is the payload. So you can see once you will click on the message, you can see we pass two value. The first value as pnum2 as 1000, and the second value is pnum1 as 200. You are able to see these two, and the same value we map in the logger. You can see the value coming from execute. Inside the execute we have query parameters, and that inside the query parameters we have two variable, and the rest of the details is the metadata details. I will show you how we can identify the metadata. So friend, this is the simple way we can create integration by adding the parameters. We can add the parameters in review parameters or the schedule integration. So here you can see we added the tracing variable, the pnum1, and with the help of the value we can identify. So suppose we added the value as 200, we added the value as 110. So if we will search with 200, all the integration which passing the 200 we will be able to see in the tracking only. So that's the main purpose of the business identifier or the tracking variable to see. So here we added only one value as a tracking variable. That's why we don't have business identifier. This is the way we can add the integration and all. So let's move to the integration and let me show you the metadata. So if we will edit the integration, any integration, you can edit the app driven or the schedule one, every integration having the metadata. Once we will edit the integration, I will show you the metadata. So this each and every integration having the instance ID with some more details. So what kind of details? If you will move to the logger, this is the endpoint where having all the details. So after this endpoint, whenever you will see, you can see the details. So let me add another logger here, and let me show the here we will see metadata underscore logger. Here I will display the metadata. So just click on create. We will select always, click log message, and here you can see in the expression message when we will move to the right side, we will be able to see the metadata. So here you can see inside the self we have metadata. This is the integration metadata. And what kind of details we have? You will see the integration. Inside the integration, we will have the integration name. So friend, remember one point, whenever you will work on the integration and sometimes you can get the error, that kind of error in the mapper. Error, it means that we are not able to expand anything here after that. We try to expand and we are getting error. So what you can do, just close here. This is the issue in the integration instance only. Again, you can move to the mapping and then you will be again see integration. Just click here and you can see it's showing all this thing. So this is the integration name. This is the identifier, the short name. This is the version. And that if you will move to the second one, the runtime, in the runtime details, you can see the instance ID, whatever instance ID we are getting over there, and the time of running, it's the same instance ID we can get here. This is the invoke by the user who is going to run the integration, and the environment. So in the environment, you can see the base URL, the service instance name, all the details we can find here. So let me display the same in the logger. So I will use concat function. You can directly write the function here or you can search function here first, direct the function here. So I will use directly concat, and here I want to provide display that instance ID. And here this is the second value. So I will give comma and I will drag this instance ID here. After that, I want to display the invoked by. So I will provide configuration run by, and I want to provide the value as invoked by. So I will drag the invoked by here. And if you want to display the integration name, yes, you can display the name integration name. So how you can display? Just add the message, and here we have the integration name right here. So I will drag the integration name here. So we added all the values. Just will validate, and you can see we have error. Let me check where we have done a mistake. Yes, somewhere we have done any mistake. Okay. Instance ID, that's fine. Let me just check the error where we got that one. So this is the first value. So you can see instance ID, that's fine. This is the first value, instance ID, comma. This is the second value, integration run by, comma. Here you can see instead of comma we have full stop. So I will remove that one, provide the comma, click on validate, and you can see we are able to validate that one. So it will display something like that. Instance ID, whatever value will be the instance ID, integration run by, the invoked by, and the integration name. Just close, validate, and close. So now I will again save the integration. We'll close the integration here, and we will activate by enabling the tracing and payload. Just activate here. So we will able to successfully activate the integration, and now we will run the integration. So just click on the test. Again, we will pass some value. So suppose we pass this value 2005 and 105. So now just click on the test. So once you will click on the test, you will be able to see the log message here. Just wait for a while. It will take a little bit of time to load the log message based on the elements you added in the integration. That's why it's suggested on the production instance we are not enabling the tracing. Well, enabling the tracing. So whenever we are enabling the tracing, it's taking a bit of time to complete the integration, so that because of that it's loading the log message. It's getting the values from integration and loading the message. That's why. Here you can see when we run the integration, we are getting instance ID. This instance ID is 04. And here you can see in the log message, we added log message instance ID 04. So you know that whenever we run the integration, it's generating instance ID. That instance ID we can get in the integration only, in the metadata. Here you can see the integration run by the username. This is the username. This is my Oracle instance username. You can see the Fox OIC user. And here you can see this is the same Fox OIC user. This is the integration name. You can see XXAP URI parameters 01. XXAP URI parameters 01. This is the version. There were option to select the version. If we add the version, it can show the here also. And this is the addition of the two values we passed 3010. So this is the simple way we can create integration. We can add the review parameters and all. So this is for today only. If you have any other queries, yes, platform is open to ask queries. You can ask. And if you want to anything, yes, feel free to ask anything. If you have any doubts and want to ask anything here. Anyone having any doubt, or we can close the session. So everyone is fine. Thank you so much for joining the session. It's really nice to have you in the team, so that yeah, we'll continue later. Thank you so much again.